A new beginning. Bobby Wong was just 10 years old when his life changed forever. The small family of four, Bobby, his elder sister May, their father Mr. Wong, and their mother, relocated to a quiet province far from the bustling streets of the city where Bobby was born. The transition was hard for everyone. The new town was isolated, nestled between hills and ancient trees, where whispers of old tragedies filled the air. Mr. Wong had always been a hardworking man, a proud father who wanted the best for his children. The family had bought an old house on the outskirts of the village. It was large but worn down, with creaky floorboards and windows that rattled in the wind. To the Wongs, it was a blank slate, an opportunity to rebuild their lives and start fresh after a tough year. However, shortly after their arrival, there was an unexpected visit. The army chief, a stern-looking man with cold, sharp eyes, appeared at their doorstep. His voice was harsh as he gave Mr. Wong a strict warning. Under no circumstances should you keep strangers in your home. This region has had troubles. If you disobey, there will be a price. 25 years of imprisonment. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. The family had no idea what had transpired in the house before them. Yet, they accepted the warning and hoped to live in peace. What they didn't know was that the house held a secret, one that would soon unravel their lives. The ghost of the house. Late one evening, Bobby was playing by himself in the attic, sorting through old boxes left behind by the previous owners. There were strange things, old photos, letters in a language he didn't understand, and small broken toys. But as Bobby moved toward the far corner of the attic, he heard something. It wasn't a creak from the old wood, but a soft, almost inaudible breath. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but as he leaned closer to the ceiling, he saw it. A pair of wide, terrified eyes staring down at him through a crack in the wooden beams. Bobby screamed, dropping the box he had been holding. His parents rushed up, asking what had happened, but when they investigated, the eyes were gone. Still, Bobby couldn't forget what he saw. That night, as the family sat down for dinner, he whispered to his sister May about what he had seen. "There's something or someone hiding up there," he said in a hushed tone. May, skeptical but curious, agreed to check it out after everyone had gone to sleep. Together, the siblings tiptoed up to the attic. They removed a loose board from the ceiling and found a small girl, no older than Bobby, curled up and trembling. She looked as though she hadn't eaten in days, her eyes wide with fear. The girl's name was Rifa. The tragedy of Rifa was the sole survivor of a terrible massacre that had happened months ago in the house. The military, under orders from higher-ups, had raided the home in search of traitors and wiped out her entire family. Rifa had hidden in the attic, listening as her parents and siblings were taken away and never returned. She had been surviving on whatever scraps she could find. Bobby, moved by her story, renamed her Panda, inspired by her delicate small frame and her round black eyes that reminded him of the endangered bears. For days, the siblings hid Rifa, now Panda, from their parents, sneaking food and water to her whenever they could. But keeping such a secret from their father, a disciplined man, became more difficult with each passing day. When May finally couldn't bear the guilt anymore, she confessed everything to their mother. At first, Mrs. Wong was furious. She knew the dangers of disobeying the army's orders. But when she saw Panda's frail body and frightened face, her heart melted. "We have to help her," Mrs. Wong said. "She's just a child." But Mr. Wong was less forgiving. He believed that turning Rifa in was the only way to protect his family. The military had made it clear, no strangers were to be sheltered. If they were caught, the consequences would be deadly. An argument broke out between Mr. and Mrs. Wong that night, loud enough for the children to hear. It tore Bobby's heart in two. He loved his father, but he also knew that Panda needed them. It felt cruel to send her away after all she had been through. A mother's sacrifice. As Mr. Wong prepared to inform the authorities the next day, Mrs. Wong intercepted him. "No," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "We can't hand her over. Let me take her to the border. I know a way." She'll be safe, and so will we. But the danger was closer than they thought. Word had spread about the old family that used to live in the house, and the military suspected something wasn't right. They began monitoring the house, waiting for the moment when Mr. Wong would slip up. The night Mrs. Wong planned to sneak Panda out of the village, the military arrived. Mr. Wong, determined to protect his family, tried to reason with them, but it was too late. One soldier, more ruthless than the others, shot Mr. Wong before he could even finish speaking. Mrs. Wong, with Panda hidden behind her, was next. The shot rang out in the still night, echoing through the empty streets. The final escape, Bobby, who had been watching from a distance with his sister, felt his world collapse. His parents were gone. Everything they had worked so hard to build was destroyed in a matter of seconds. But there was no time to grieve. May grabbed his hand, and together they ran. With Panda in tow, they dashed through the dark woods, their hearts pounding as they heard the soldiers chasing them. May, always the stronger and more level-headed one, led them to a hidden path her mother had once mentioned, a path that led to the border, away from the province and the horrors it contained. The journey was long and perilous, but the siblings pressed on, their bond growing stronger with each step. They had lost so much, but they still had each other. And they had Panda, whose life they had saved at the cost of their own family. A new life weeks later, Bobby's elder sister, May, and Panda arrived at a small, peaceful village far from the reach of the military. They were taken in by a kind, elderly couple who had no children of their own. Though their hearts were heavy with the loss of their parents, they found solace in their new home. Panda, who had once been a scared, lonely girl, blossomed under their care. She grew stronger, her laughter echoing through the house that had once been filled with silence. Bobby's elder sister, though still haunted by the events, found a new purpose in life. She promised to protect his sister and Panda, to honor the sacrifice his parents had made. Together they would rebuild, just as their parents had once hoped to do. The pain of their past would never fully fade, but in the quiet moments, beneath the starry sky, they found peace. They were a family, bound not by blood, but by the love and loyalty that had carried them through the darkest of times. And in the end, that was all that mattered.